What is up everyone, and welcome back to another video. So as you probably know by now, aim is one of the most important mechanics in Fortnite. You can have all the builds, edits, and game sense in the world, but if you can't hit your shots consistently for high damage, all that is pretty much useless. And that's why in today's video, I'll be doing my updated guide on how to improve your aim fast in Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 4. This video is going to include all of my favorite up-to-date practice methods that you can use to improve your aim from all ranges and in all situations. Before we get into it though, if you find this video helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it, and consider subscribing as well if you want to see more content just like this in the future. And lastly, if you want to help your boy out a bit extra, then consider using code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you and it seriously helps me out a ton. Thank you so much to everyone who's using it. But with all that said, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. So starting off this video, I'm going to begin by going over 3 of my favorite creative maps that you can use to improve your aim. These are going to be accessible to everybody, they're all in creative, and they should help you out a ton. Then after that, towards the end of the video, I'll actually be going over some tips for structuring your aim practice, building a routine, and things of that nature. So with that said, getting into our first practice method, and we've got one of the most popular methods in the community, which is aim duels. Specifically, I'll be talking about Raiders 1v1 Aim Trainer. This map is one of my favorite ways to practice your aim, specifically because of how realistic it is. If you're not familiar with aim duels are basically a map where you and your opponent are given a huge amount of HP, usually like 2,000, 4,000, 6,000 or something like that, and then you're put into a situation where you're just shooting one another non-stop. Aim duels are super effective because they have you and a real player, so you're shooting against the types of movements actual players make instead of a predictable target, and because they have so much variety. This particular map has a ton of different scenarios, as you can see on screen. These range from close range shotgun flick scenarios to SMG spray scenarios, and even scenarios where you're shooting an opponent out of the air who's gliding. All these scenarios help you improve various forms of aim, and they're pretty darn realistic. Another feature I love in this map is how you can get matched up with a random player just by hopping into the matchmaking portal, so you don't have to sit there and find a person to aim duel against. The game pretty much just provides that for you. So overall, Raiders 1v1 Aim Trainer is one of the best ways to improve your aim in Fortnite, and definitely something you should start using in your routine. So with that said, I'll put the code up on screen right now if you want to take note of it. Moving on to our second practice method though, and next up we've got one of the OG aim training maps in Fortnite, which is the Scavic Aim Trainer. The Scavic Aim Trainer is another aim training map which is absolutely amazing for pretty much all forms of aim. Much like Raiders map, the Scavic Aim Trainer has tons of scenarios ranging from close range with shotguns and SMGs to AR scenarios from mid-range and so much more. The name Scavic, if you haven't noticed, is literally Kovacs spelled backwards, and Kovacs is a super popular aim trainer outside of Fortnite, which people from tons of different games use. Scavic Aim Trainer was basically meant to be similar to Kovacs in the sense that it has a lot of the same scenarios, except it's completely free and it's available in creative compared to Kovacs, which costs money, is outside of Fortnite, and is only accessible for PC players. So in my opinion, the Scavic Aim Trainer is a super well-rounded aim trainer that pretty much everyone should be using, and I strongly recommend you make use of it. If you want to use this map, then I'll put the code up on screen right now. Now moving on to our third map to improve your aim in Fortnite, and this one is probably going to surprise some of you, and that's actually going to be Raider 464's Mechanics Training Map V3. Now I know you guys are probably wondering why on earth would I use a mechanics map to improve my aim, but actually a lot of these scenarios in Raider's mechanics map can carry over super well to your aim, specifically 2 of them, and they also serve a special purpose because they're extra realistic because they involve both editing and building as well as aim. For example, the first section I really like for this purpose is the Piece Control X Peek Training. This section is pretty much a piece control section where your goal is to box up the sentry and get a clean shot. And if you peek for too long, the sentry shoots you, which means you have to be smart about the peeks you go for. The reason this works so well for your aim is because you're put into realistic situations where you're going for an optimal edit, and you're practicing peeking from that specific edit. So obviously it's much more specific to the types of edits you would actually do in real games. This helps you improve the editing into shots, and it helps you improve your aim, so when you do piece control someone, you're going to be better at aiming in that situation. The other section I really like for improving your aim is actually going to be the box fight training section. In this section, you've got a ton of bots that run around and shoot at you, and your goal is basically to avoid taking damage and obviously eliminate them. But much like the previous section we talked about, this section can really help you with your aim because you're forced to edit into shots and get good peeks. Although these 2 sections aren't specifically made for practicing your aim, they do really help you improve your aim in a highly realistic environment, which is exactly what might help a lot of you to become more consistent and carry over your aim practice into actual games. Since the situations involve building and editing, this will help you really flow your edits and shots much better in actual games and should be super helpful. And of course, you do have the added benefit of improving your building and editing at the same time, which certainly can't hurt. So although the idea of using a mechanics map for aim training may seem a bit unusual, this should help you guys quite a bit. With that said, I'll put the code up for this map on screen right now if you want to give it a shot. So moving into the next section of this video, and now that we've gone over all the top practice methods to improve your aim, next up we're going to be getting into some general tips that I have for your aim training. These are mainly going to be tidbits that I've picked up that I think can allow you to improve your aim faster and be more effective with your practice. And starting off, I want to discuss structuring your routine. Structuring your aim training routine is a pretty simple process, but something that a lot of players mess up on when they're trying to improve their aim. Most players will hop into an aim map once in a while and get some practice in, but won't see much progress because there's no consistency in the actual way they practice. So the first aspect of structuring your routine is going to come down to timing. Basically, the goal here is to set the amount of time and when you're actually going to practice. What I recommend you do here is to do your aim training routine when you first get on the game. I tend to notice that when you're already in the game and getting some games in, usually you won't want to stop in the middle of your session or take the time at the end to do a full aim training routine. Truthfully, aim training isn't really going to be the most exciting thing, so I tend to find it best for someone to get it done nice and early, not to mention it can serve as a pretty solid warm-up to help you get your shots on point before you get into the game. As well as that, the second factor is how long you actually practice for. Now, this is going to largely depend on the time you have to play. For example, if you're only on for 2 hours, then doing a full hour of aim training isn't really going to make sense. But if you play for 8 hours, that 1 hour of practice may not be too crazy after all. As a general rule, I'd say to keep aim training to a maximum of 20% of your overall time online. So for every 5 hours you spend practicing, you would do a maximum of 1 hour of aim training. The other big factor here is skill level, since it obviously takes a lot more time for an advanced player to improve compared to a beginner or intermediate player. So for each time you get on, I'd recommend that beginners spend about 20 minutes or less aim training, intermediate players spend between 20 and 45 minutes, and advanced players spend at least 45 minutes. The last aspect of structuring your routine is to actually select what you do, but luckily you've already got 3 options from this video. I recommend you mix in a bit of everything here and try to get at least 2 out of the 3 maps in this video and mix it up between close, mid, and long range. As well as that, if you have one particular weakness, feel free to add extra time to specifically hone in on that weakness and improve on it. For example, if your shotgun aim sucks, then you may want to spend more time in close range shotgun scenarios, aim duels, and things like that. Or if you can't hit your shots with an AR, then you should try out some longer range tracking scenarios or even the glider scenario in Raiders 1v1 Aim Trainer. Overall though, if you follow all these steps, you should find yourself with a solid aim training routine specifically tailored to you, which should help you improve your aim dramatically. On to my final tip for this video though, and that's the importance of consistency. The biggest mistake that I find so many players making is being inconsistent with their aim training. Many players will aim train for a couple of days, feel like they're not improving too much, and then call it quits on aim training entirely. The biggest key here is to just stick with it and continue to aim train when you get on Fortnite, even if it gets kind of boring or you feel like you're not improving a ton. This process is going to take a lot of time, but if you follow the steps in this video and you stay consistent with it, you should find your aim improving dramatically. But with all that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how to improve your aim fast in Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 4 and future seasons. Overall, by following all the maps and advice in this video, you should find yourself with a solid aim training routine that helps you to improve on a consistent basis. If you found this video helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it and consider subscribing as well if you want to see more content just like this in the future. As well as that, if you want to show some extra support, then I'd appreciate it a ton if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you. It only takes a few seconds to type in, and it seriously helps me out a bunch. As always, thank you so much to everyone who's using it. With that said though, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.